Welcome back to the Cognitive Drift. It is January 10th, 2026. If you've already abandoned your New Year, New Me resolution to stop arguing with strangers about orbital mechanics on the internet, congratulations! You're officially one of my people. Welcome home. I'm your host, and today we're diving into a topic that proves that deep down, the United States is basically that one friend who refuses to stop asking if your car is for sale, even though you've told them no for 80 consecutive years. We're talking about the American obsession with buying Greenland. Why? Because while the rest of the world is worried about AI ethics or whatever, the Pentagon is apparently just browsing Zillow for continents. Let's get into the world's most expensive real estate thirst trap. All right, let's get one thing straight right off the bat. This whole, hey, let's buy Greenland thing, it is not new. Not even close. What we're seeing in the news today is just, well, it's the latest episode in a very, very long-running series. We're talking about a 100-year obsession here. And, just look at this timeline. It's like a recurring dream for American presidents. It kicks off way back in 1867. You've got Secretary of State Seward, who literally just closed the deal on Alaska, and he's already window shopping for Greenland. Fast forward to 1946, after World War II, and President Truman makes a serious formal offer. And then boom, 2019, the whole idea gets this massive global media reboot. It's this pattern, right? Every couple of generations, an American leader looks at the map and gets that same old itch. And let's be clear, Truman's offer? This was no joke. We're talking $100 million. But get this, not just cash. He offered to pay in gold bullion. Actual physical gold. That's how serious they were. The military brass back then, the Joint Chiefs, they were telling him that Greenland was, and I quote, indispensable to the safety of the United States. And here's the thing that makes this whole story a little less crazy than it sounds on the surface. There's a precedent for this. It's happened before. See, back in 1917, the U.S. actually did buy territory from Denmark. They bought the Danish West Indies for $25 million in gold. And you know what we call that place today? The U.S. Virgin Islands. So yeah, it's not totally out of left field. Okay, so this isn't just some historical quirk anymore. We're talking about a modern, hardcore military necessity. Because America's obsession, it's not really about planting a flag on more land. It's about one very, very specific strip of water. It's all about geography. And this is it. The GIUK gap. Sounds like a weird clothing brand, but it's actually one of the most important pieces of military real estate on the planet. GIUK stands for Greenland, Iceland, and the United Kingdom. If you're a Russian submarine and you want to get out of your Arctic bases and into the wide open Atlantic, well, you have to pass through this gap. For NATO, this gap is basically a giant tripwire. And controlling Greenland means you own the front door to that choke point. And that's why military planners have this awesome, kind of terrifying nickname for Greenland, the unsinkable aircraft carrier. Think about it. You can't torpedo an island. It's a permanent stationary base, perfectly positioned to be a giant listening post. You stick your most advanced radar and sensor systems there, and suddenly your warning time for anything coming over the pole, it shrinks dramatically. It's basically the geopolitical equivalent of building a spite fence so you can keep an eye on your neighbor's pool. The narrative is always the same. It's a vital military buffer. It's for the stability of the Arctic. Sure, Jan. We know you just want to make sure the GUAK gap doesn't become the GUAK oops, we missed them gap. Hold that thought. Time to satisfy the algorithm gods. Look, in a world where whole land masses are being eyeballed for acquisition, you need to make sure your favorite podcast doesn't get sold off to a private equity firm. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the Arctic's version of Extreme Makeover Home Edition, do me a solid. Smash that subscribe button like you're trying to claim sovereignty over a deserted island. Leave a 5-star review. Write something like, I'm only here for the GIUK gap jokes. It confuses the SEO bots and makes me feel like I'm not just talking to my houseplants. Do it now before the US actually buys Greenland, and we all have to pay roaming charges to visit the North Pole. Okay, and we're back. Now, if you thought this was just about military strategy and playing submarine hide-and-seek, oh, there's another layer to this, a much, much shinier layer. Because it turns out it's not really about the ice on top. It's about the trillion-dollar treasure chest that's buried underneath. So, what's in that treasure chest? A whole lot of stuff, but the crown jewels are rare earth elements. And Greenland is sitting on one of the biggest stashes outside of China. Now look at this chart. It's not just about who has the raw materials, it's about who can process them. And right now, China has an iron grip on that process. 85%. That's not just a lead, it's a stranglehold. And for the US and its allies, that is a terrifying vulnerability. And if you're thinking, rare earths, what's that got to do with me? Well, it's got everything to do with you. They're the secret sauce in basically all of our modern tech. That smartphone in your pocket? Full of them. The electric car you're dreaming of? Can't run without them. Even the giant wind turbines for green energy. They all rely on these incredibly important materials. But it doesn't stop with consumer tech. Not by a long shot. The exact same elements are absolutely critical for the most advanced military gear. We're talking the guts of an F-35 fighter jet, the guidance systems and cruise missiles, the sonar that hunts for those submarines in the GI-UK gap. Without a steady supply of this stuff, your entire defense industry could just stop. So you can see why having a potential friendly source in Greenland is seen as a game changer. Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting. This is the 4D chess part of the story. Because while the whole world was laughing at the idea of buying a country like it's a new car, the real play was something much more subtle. It's the art of how you gain influence without ever actually buying anything. And it all hinges on this central dilemma for the people of Greenland. On one hand, you have the dream, full sovereignty. Polls show a majority of Greenlanders want to be a fully independent nation. But on the other hand, you have the cold, hard economic reality. Right now, a huge chunk of their public budget, around $600 million a year, comes directly from Denmark. If they declare independence, that money vanishes. Poof, gone. And that creates a huge financial vacuum, a vacuum that another superpower might be very happy to fill. And we absolutely have to remember, this isn't just some abstract game of geopolitical chess. We're talking about people, a population with a history that includes some deep, painful wounds. Things like the Little Danes experiment in the 50s, where Inuit kids were literally taken from their families and sent to Denmark to be re-educated. That kind of trauma doesn't just go away. And when you add in some of the serious social challenges they face today, well, you can understand why being treated like a piece of property on a map is incredibly offensive. And that brings us right up to the present day, to right now, January 2026. Because what was a sort of weird, awkward diplomatic moment back in 2019 has escalated. It's not awkward anymore. Now it's brinkmanship. We've moved from headlines to a high-stakes stare-down. Just look at what's happened this month alone. Early January, the White House comes out and says that all options, and they mean all options, even military ones, are being considered to secure Greenland. Denmark's response was instant. Greenland is not for sale, period. Now you have other European allies jumping in, warning the US against any kind of strong-arming. This isn't just a disagreement anymore. It's putting real strain on the NATO alliance itself. And this table, really, it just lays it all out. It's a total clash of perspectives. For the USA, Greenland is a strategic asset, a shield and a treasure vault. For China, it's a battery pack and a key stop on their new Arctic trade route. For Denmark, it's a sovereign part of their kingdom, a responsibility. And for the Greenlanders themselves, the roughly 57,000 people who actually live there, it's not an asset or a pawn. It's just home. So whether it's Truman in 46 or the modern day, I want to buy the Tundra Club, the dream lives on. It's a fascinating mix of 19th century land grabbing and 21st century mineral thirst. And what it really tells us is that the map of the world is changing right under our feet. The story of the next 50 years, it's going to be written in the North. It's going to be decided in the Arctic. Thanks for hanging out in my ear space. Go outside, enjoy the fact that your backyard probably isn't a vital military buffer, and try to have a decent 2026. Stay skeptical. This episode was produced by the legendary FireflyHaku. I'm fairly certain Haku is currently in a bidding war for a small glacier, just to turn it into a high-end, temperature-controlled server farm. They handle the audio levels, and I handle the level of sarcasm. If Haku ever gets their own island, I'm moving the studio there immediately. We'll call it Podcast Land, and we won't sell it to anyone, not even for a carrier strike group.